Music plays an extremely important role in social protest. Movement songs spread beyond wherever region they originate in. Music can have hidden messages when explicit messages could be dangerous or unwelcome. For instance, during the apartheid, the government censored many songs and music, but there were many songs with implicit rather than explicit messages that were able to spread the messages of the anti-apartheid movement without putting the supporters in danger. Songs would relay quickly through groups of workers or marchers, protesters, or really any supporters of a social movement. They could serve a smaller yet still important purpose. People could complain or vent about their troubles without risk of losing their jobs or their safety. Songs were used as outlets because they could be easily shared among the population. They were free, they spread quickly, and they facilitated cultural interactions. With an addictive melody and good rhythm, movement songs are hard to resist. They create unity in societies no matter what background people had, and they could give everyone a common goal and common means of fighting. Specifically, music bridged cultural and racial borders. Even if someone originally didn't support a movement, they could find themselves taken by a certain artist or song, and thus find themselves supporting a movement as a whole. Music also spread awareness of issues that people either did not know about or did not know at all. Not only was music influential, but the artists behind it were often more so. Artists with widespread popularity could easily send out a message for or against a movement that would reach hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. For example, the song Respect, sung by Aretha Franklin, reached many people due to its high popularity, which brings me to my chosen song and the social protest it fought for. Respect perfectly lined up and reflected the basic thoughts of the civil rights movement and the women's rights movement occurring at the time, which was the 1960s, as Aretha Franklin's cover came out in 1967. Aretha Franklin's version was a cover of the original Otis Redding's creation, which came out 2 years prior in 1965. Yet Franklin's became much more popular and widespread because it directly spoke to the women's rights movement, which was in full swing at the time, and which I will focus on specifically for this project. Otis Redding wrote Respect in 1965, as mentioned prior. Redding was born in Dawson, Georgia in 1941. His career became extremely successful in the 60s, but Redding tragically died in a plane crash in December of 1967. Despite Otis Redding writing and producing the first track of Respect, Aretha Franklin's was much more popular and much more widespread. One article talked about how Aretha Franklin's song would come on in clubs all over the world, not just in America. The song was produced and became popular during a very active time for the United States. The song perfectly overlapped the civil rights movement and the women's rights movement, and gained even more momentum as it was performed by a black woman, Aretha Franklin. So both efforts felt a special connection to the song. The song speaks of asking for respect, which was the absolute basics of each movement. Both aimed for equal opportunities and even just downright being treated like a human, as most people that weren't white men during this time were not treated as such. Both the women's rights movement and the civil rights movement were extremely important to our country, and many of their ideas and goals are still being fought for today. But as mentioned prior, for the purpose of this project, I am going to focus more on the women's rights aspect of Aretha Franklin's song. Many important things came out of the women's rights movement that are still just as important today. For example, Title IX was passed in 1979, which prohibited against colleges from discriminating based on gender. Title IX is still used today in colleges for all matters in higher education, including athletics, clubs, sexual assault, and more. The women's rights movement also brought about the Equal Rights Amendment, which was supposed to make it illegal to discriminate based on sex, but it actually never passed in our government. Women, especially women of color, were and was the oppressed group of the time. Up until this point in our history, not many women worked, and the 60s brought about a social change when more and more women began entering the workforce. However, there was a huge gap in pay, higher level jobs, benefits, and general treatment of employees based on gender. Both domestic violence and sexual assault were accepted and would often go unpunished during this time, and women were expected to be, quote, homemakers and bear children and raise a family, and were often criticized for going against this social norm. Oftentimes, the people that were criticizing these women were men, specifically white men, which was the privileged group during the time. Often, men would disrespect and ostracize women who chose to enter the workforce rather than marrying, having kids, and becoming a homemaker.